The Age of Enlightenment, which was also known as the Age of Reason, was a cultural movement of intellectuals in 18th-century Europe and America. The purpose was to reform society and advance knowledge. It promoted science and intellectual interchange and opposed superstition, intolerance and abuses in church and state.
From the historical standpoint, the Enlightenment era consisted of politics, religion, and culture. The politics of the Enlightenment consisted of citizens questioned the rulers, and they wanted a law to be passed when agreed upon by both ruler and the ones being ruled. The religions were in conflict with science, in the way that science was always questioning religion. The culture was everyone wanting to change their ways of life. Artists and writers were questioning their arts and how they were performed. One of the famous musicians of the time that is still famous today was Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart.
The science of the Enlightenment was the driving force behind it. It was what caused people to question religion. The science that was being developed was theories and philosophies. One of the theories was the heliocentric theory. People thought that the Earth was the center of the universe, but the Sun really is. This theory was created by Nicholas Copernicus. But people didn't widely accept it because he had trouble proving it. Isaac Newton, Johannes Kepler, and Galileo Galilei helped prove the heliocentric theory by studying the Moon and Jupiter's moons. The heliocentric theory conflicted with many people's religious beliefs because many people believed that God created the perfect universe with Earth at the center. During the Enlightenment there were many advances in technology. Some of the main devices were the lightning rod and the telescope. The scientist who created the lightning rod was Benjamin Franklin. The lightning rod was an advancement because it prevented buildings from lightning damage. Galileo Galilei created a telescope and used it to study the sky. The telescope is still a useful tool used today. The scientists of the Enlightenment developed the germ theory. This went against common religious beliefs because germs meant that sickness wasn't God's wrath against them. Instead, sicknesses were a result of human doings.
In the Enlightenment era, there were advances in mathematics as well. The Arabic number system became the common number system of the Enlightenment. The Arabic number system is the number system with the digits 0 through 9. During the Enlightenment, calculus was created. Calculus was created by Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz and Isaac Newton. Calculus is still used and taught today. The pendulum clock was invented by Galileo during the Enlightenment era. This made it so time could be measured more accurately.
Like everything else, there were important literary occurrences as well during the Age of Enlightenment. Some of the writers of the time included William Blake, Voltaire, Baron de Montesquieu, and Denis Diderot. William Blake lived in London, and was a poet, painter, and engraver. Some of his poems were, A Little Boy Lost, Ah, Sunflower, and A Poison Tree. William Blake's poems were known for being hard to understand, and only a few could. Today, he is admired for his imagination in his writing.
The weeping child could not be heard, the weeping parents wept in vain. They stripped him to his little shirt, and bound him in an iron chain, and burned him in a holy place, where many had been heard before.
Voltaire produced many different forms of literature, including plays, poetry, novels, essays, and other historical documents. Voltaire was one of the few Enlightenment figures that influenced both the American and French revolutions. Some of Voltaire's plays were The Orphan of China, Irene, Socrates, and Candide. Candide was a satirical play that made fun of the idea that the world was the best possible world.
In the castle of Baron Thunder, Tenstruck in Westphalia, there lived a youth, on which nature had bestowed the most agreeable manners. His face was the index to his mind.
Baron de Montesquieu was another writer and thinker. Two of the books he wrote were The Spirit of Laws, and The Persian Letters. The Persian Letters is a novel about two Persian noblemen, Uspik and Rika, who travel through France.
Not to be loved is misfortune, but it is an insult to be loved no longer.
Denis Diderot was both a writer and a philosopher. During the time of the Enlightenment, he decided to pull together all the ideas of the time, particularly those of science and philosophy, and created the encyclopedia. Denis Diderot got information from many people including Voltaire, Montesquieu, and Rousseau, to put in the encyclopedia. Denis Diderot spent 30 years working on the encyclopedia, and released it in 35 large volumes. However, the Church did not take kindly to the encyclopedia, because the ideas in the encyclopedia attacked the Church and the idea of absolute monarchy. Unlike today, the people of the Enlightenment didn't have computers or pencils to write with. Instead, they had to use quill pens that would be dipped in ink.
And that concludes our program today, about the Age of Enlightenment.